This day in sports history. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Christmas will be here before you know it, and you know what would make a great stocking stuffer for everybody in your family? Sterling Soap. From bar soap to shave soap, beard balm to lip balm, aftershaves and lotions, Sterling Soap has something for everyone on your list. Check out their seasonal soaps that will complement the scents of your home this holiday season. And they're more than just soap. They also have a full line of coffee straight from the Sterling Roastery. Find their full line of products at sterlingsoapcompany.com. And welcome back for another edition of This Day in Sports History. It's November 24th, and on this day in 1963, it was a somber day in Cleveland. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas on the 22nd. The country was in mourning, and the majority of events around the country had been canceled. College football games scheduled for the 23rd were not played. The AFL had canceled all of its games. Well, NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle reached out to White House Press Secretary Pierre Salinger for some guidance. Salinger thought that playing the games might provide a distraction for the nation away from the tragedy for just a few hours, and so Rozelle decided that the NFL would play their Sunday games as scheduled. Rozelle later called that decision his most regrettable, and it would be the one thing that he would have changed if he could. The Dallas Cowboys were scheduled to play in Cleveland on this day. When they flew in on Saturday, the Cowboys were persona non grata. The baggage handlers refused to touch their bags. When they got to the hotel staff refused to talk to them or provide them any service. When they got to Municipal Stadium, fans yelled and spit at them simply because they represented the city of Dallas, where the president was shot. The Cowboys didn't want to be there. Nobody wanted to be there. Defensive tackle Bob Lilly said it was the only game in his career that he did not want to play. Running back Don Perkins said he felt guilty by association, and he was ashamed to be associated with Dallas. That didn't stop 55,000 people showing up at the stadium to watch the Browns and the Cowboys play this game, though it was more like a zombie crowd. The Browns' public address announcer usually announced the opposing team starters, but instead on this day simply announced the Dallas Cowboys. When the teams were in the locker room prior to kickoff, they learned that Lee Harvey Oswald had been shot by Jack Ruby. Cowboys players, after the treatment they'd received so far and then hearing that news, were unsure about even going out on the field. Dallas defensive end George Andre said, "I always was wondering if there was a guy on the upper deck with a rifle or something taking a bead on me. We were told to keep our helmet on at all times." The players described the atmosphere as being like a morgue. There was no cheering for or against. Dallas head coach Tom Landry said that the situation was very unusual, but he had to approach the game just as a job that you got to go do. He said, "We're here and we're going to play this game. We don't want to play the game, but we're going to play it." They did, but they were just going through the motions. There was no television broadcast of this game, and the radio broadcast was cut to cover the developing situation with Oswald and Ruby. Dallas quarterback Don Meredith threw 4 interceptions. Cleveland quarterback Frank Ryan threw an additional 3. Jim Brown only ran for 51 yards in a 27-17 Cleveland win. Rozelle's unpopular decision to play games 2 days after JFK's assassination played into the NFL's decision to not play games in the immediate aftermath of 9/11 in 2001. So let's move ahead 3 years to what happened on this day in 1966, when the Cowboys played their first Thanksgiving Day game. And again, it was the Browns, but this time the game was in Dallas. The game was played at the Cotton Bowl, and Meredith and Ryan were still the signal callers for both their respective clubs, and this game was a much better performance for both of them. Neither guy threw a pick. Meredith threw a 6-yard touchdown pass to Dan Reeves to give the Cowboys a 13-7 lead in this one. Ryan hit Ernie Green for a 16-yard strike to take the lead back, but a couple of Danny Villanueva field goals and a Don Perkins touchdown gave Dallas the 26-14 win. With the exception of 1975 and 1977, when the NFL tried and failed to make St. Louis part of the Thanksgiving tradition, the Cowboys have hosted a Turkey Day game. On this day in 1973, an unsatisfying end to the Ohio State-Michigan game led to an even more unsatisfying decision, at least for Michigan fans. This is one of the classics in the big game rivalry between top-ranked Ohio State and number 4 Michigan at the Big House. This is year 5 of what would be called the 10-year war period between Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler. Ohio State quarterback Cornelius Green played with an injured thumb in this one, and he didn't throw a pass. But when you have a guy like Archie Griffin, you can just let that guy carry the load. Griffin, just a sophomore at this point, carried the ball 30 times for 174 yards. He didn't score, but he helped set up their lone touchdown of the day in the second quarter, and then Ohio State added a field goal to take a 10-0 lead into halftime. It stayed that way into the fourth. Michigan added a field goal of their own, and then when they got the ball back, drove down the field deep into Buckeye territory. Facing a 4th and inches at the 10, Schembechler called a play that got them more than just an inch. Here's Chris Schenkel with the call that day for ABC.
His formation is not the straight T, it's the power I, as you see. Inches, 4th down. Biggest play that Michigan has had. Look at this, touchdown! Oh my heavens, what a call! Dennis Franklin on one of the great calls. Everyone was surprised. I know I was.
Yes, I was too. I thought they'd go to the first down. They gambled one all the way.
And now, will they go for 2?
No, I don't think they will.
Yeah, but a tie is like kissing your mother-in-law.
Yeah, you've got 9 minutes and 32 seconds.
With 9:32 to play, the extra point was the right call to tie the game at 10, especially in a game when points were so hard to earn. But the guy who just scored the touchdown, Dennis Franklin, broke his collarbone a few minutes later. Now keep that in mind for about 90 seconds. With just over a minute to go, Michigan attempted a 58-yard field goal, and the college field goal was tougher than the pro field goal at this point because the goalposts were in the back of the end zone. The NFL still had the posts in the front. Mike Lantry, a Vietnam vet and a walk-on kicker, missed wide left, and the game ended in a 10-10 tie. Both teams finished with an undefeated record overall and in the Big Ten. Well, the Big Ten champ always got the bid to the Rose Bowl. But since they had tied in their head-to-head matchup and they'd beaten everybody else, the bid for the Rose Bowl came down to a secret vote by the conference athletic directors. Ohio State ended up winning the vote 6-4. Obviously, nobody with Michigan was happy about that vote, and Schembechler was livid at Big Ten Commissioner Wayne Duke. Both thought Duke got into the ears of the other ADs and said that since Michigan's quarterback, Dennis Franklin, broke his collarbone and would not be able to play in the Rose Bowl, that the better chance for the league to win it would be to send the Buckeyes. Schembechler publicly vowed to seek revenge on Duke, and when Duke threatened to strip Michigan of future bowl privileges, Bo responded they already did that. That would be double jeopardy. Ohio State did go on to win the Rose Bowl with a 42-21 win over Southern Cal. Are you a hockey fan? Then you'll love Eric Zweig's new book, Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2. It's a treasure trove of untold tales, bizarre incidents, and captivating trivia that will leave even the most devoted puckhead astounded. The intense rivalries, epic showdowns, and historic clashes that shaped the NHL's early years, it's all in there. Zweig uncovers the true stories that helped shape the sport, ensuring that you will never look at hockey the same way again. Check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. On this day in 2018, it was the highest-scoring college football game in modern football history, and I'm making the modern distinction to take out the consideration of games that happened before 1930. Number 22 Texas A&M faced off with number 7 LSU in College Station on this day. The Aggies had not beaten the Tigers at home since 1995. Now, they had not played continuously all that time, but still, when these teams got together, there was that simmering rivalry that has its roots dating back to 1899. In order to reach the heights and lengths that this game needed to combine for the most points in an FBS game, it needed a lot of overtime. But this game nearly was settled in regulation. LSU safety Grant Delpit picked off a Kellen Mond pass in the final minute of regulation, and Tigers head coach Ed Orgeron got a Gatorade bath. But that celebration was a little premature after video replay showed that Mond's knee hit the ground before he threw the football, negating the INT. But that celebration was a little premature after video replay showed that Mond's knee hit the ground before he threw the football, negating the INT. With 1 second on the clock, this happened. Here's the call from Taylor Zarzour that night for the SEC Network.
Game on the line. Mond, end zone. Caught! Courtney Davis!
Both teams kicked field goals in the first OT, touchdowns with extra points in OT number 2, touchdowns with the mandatory 2-point conversions in number 3, exchanged field goals again in number 4, touchdowns with failed 2-point conversions in the 5th, back to touchdowns with 2-point conversions in the 6th overtime. Finally, in the 7th overtime, LSU scored a touchdown but was stopped on its 2-point conversion. The Aggies matched that with a touchdown of their own and needed just the 2-pointer to end it. Once again, here's Taylor Zarzour.
From outside the 5. Mond looking that way. Got it! It's Rodgers! The Aggies win the game of the year in the Southeastern Conference.
Final score 74-72, a combined 146 points. The teams actually combined for more points in the overtime than they did in regulation. And by the time this one ended, Ed Orgeron's shirt had completely dried out from his premature Gatorade shower as he briefly shook the hand of Aggie coach Jimbo Fisher. The 146 points combined eclipsed the previous record set just the year before, when Western Michigan and Buffalo combined for 139. And on this day in 1960, Wilt Chamberlain grabbed an NBA record 55 rebounds in a game against the Boston Celtics. Chamberlain was playing in Philadelphia at this point in his career, and of course with the Celtics on the other side, this was a battle between Wilt and Bill Russell. Coming into this one, Russell held the record with 51 rebounds. Wilt dominated with a game-high 34 points along with his double nickel of boards, but the Sixers came up a little bit short as Russell scored 18, but got help from Jerry Cousy, Tommy Heinsohn, and Sam Jones, who combined for 72 points, and Boston won 132-129. Chamberlain's 55 rebounds is still the all-time record. In fact, Chamberlain and Russell have 23 of the top 25 rebounding games in NBA history, with only Nate Thurmond and Jerry Lucas breaking up the monopoly. And time now for today's Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. William Shakespeare invented more than 1,700 words into the English language that we still use today. That's a quick journey around this day in sports history. Come on back tomorrow for more. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.